Hello, so as James just said, I'm part of Extinction Rebellion COP26, and one of our main aims is to try to amplify voices that are less heard. And so inspired by the Extinction Rebellion London Rebellion that's happening now, where they've got a whole element called crisis talks, where encouraging people to come together and discuss the crisis that we're in. We initiated something called Together in Crisis, which is global voices of the climate crisis. And we hope to have about 50 recordings in the end and a website to put them on. We're just in the process now, and we have a few of our speakers. We'll listen to their little recordings and have a chance to ask some questions. Over to you, James.
So I'm going to play two videos at a time. We're going to have sort of three parts to this. So two recorded videos followed by a panel discussion. We're going to hear from Pascal from the Democratic Republic of Congo first.
Jambo, je m'appelle Pascal Mirundi depuis la République démocratique du Congo, précisément à Goma. J'ai fait cette petite vidéo pour interpeller les pays du Nord, surtout les pays de G7. Nous, les populations riveraines, on a besoin que vous puissiez vous acquitter de vos dettes. Parce qu'avec ces dettes, ça pourra nous aider, ça va nous aider, qu'on puisse être capable de payer ou de subvenir à nos besoins, nous, en tant que des populations riveraines. Nous sommes les populations les plus touchées par la présence de ces aires protégées. Parce que naturellement, on devait cultiver dans cette heure, on devait faire la chasse, mais pour l'amour de notre humanité, pour l'amour de nos enfants, parce qu'on ne veut pas que demain nos enfants puissent nous demander où se trouvaient les gorilles et qu'on soit incapable de leur répondre. Aujourd'hui, on se bat pour qu'on puisse protéger ces aires protégées. Et en principe, vous les pays de G7, vous les pays les plus pollueurs, vous devez payer l'argent de l'unité carbone. Mais jusqu'à aujourd'hui, vous ne voulez pas vous acquitter de vos dettes. Nous vous appelons pour que vous puissiez prendre des mesures qui sont tellement sérieuses. Parce que sans ces mesures-là, nous, les populations riveraines, on est en train de souffrir. Espérons que vous êtes conscients de mesures que vous allez prendre lors de COP26 en novembre. Et que ces mesures ne seront pas seulement des rapports que vous allez garder dans vos sacs, mais ces mesures-là seront des choses que vous allez mettre sur le terrain, des réalités que nous allons voir sur le terrain, des principes que nous allons voir sur le terrain. Espérons que le monde sera fier de vous avoir comme ses dignes fils. Aujourd'hui, il est temps et n'attendons pas que demain nous puissions plaider pour qu'on puisse trouver des résultats, parce que la souffrance ne donne pas de résultats, la souffrance ne donne que de l'art. Merci beaucoup. Avec rage et amour, nous vous saluons.
Okay, next we're going to watch Anita's video. I wondered, Anita, would you like to introduce yourself now, and then we'll watch this video and then take the panel session.
Hi, I'm Gabby or Anita. You can call me by either, both. I'm from São Paulo, Brazil, and on my video I talked a little bit about the Amazon fires and the Amazon deforestation. I think that's it.
Great, thank you.
Hola. Hi, my name's Gabby. I'm from São Paulo, Brazil, and today I'm going to be talking a little bit about the Amazon fires. The Amazon rainforest has a very important role, as it is the habitat of numerous species of fauna and flora, and it is also responsible for a huge amount of CO2's absorption in the planet. However, due to the deforestation that is happening, the Amazon is now emitting more CO2 than it is absorbing it. The deforestation process occurs due to companies that want to profit off the territories, either by using it as pasture, using it to plant soy that is transformed into cattle feed, or by exploring it. This process is being authorized by Brazilian laws that are being imposed by the government that also profits off it. Taking into account that this process and the fires are a consequence of companies' actions, consumption has a huge role in it. The more people buy from these companies, especially internationally, the more the fires will happen. So it is very important that everyone, above all the global north, starts being more aware about the companies they're consuming from and boycott the ones that are responsible for the Amazon fires. The Amazon deforestation leads to the destruction of indigenous lands, the killing of a huge amount of biodiversity and people, and worsens global warming. If you want to know more about this process and know the names of these companies, access the Instagram account at extinctionrebellion.brazil. Please act now.
Okay, so if anyone has any questions, feel free to raise your hand or to put them into the chat and they can be read out if you prefer. Okay, well, if there are no questions so far, maybe I'll ask one to start the discussion. So Anita, I was wondering, how is climate change negotiations, things like COP26, how are they covered in the media in Brazil? How do you think that people in Brazil experience this news? Is it talked about much at all? And if it is, are the discussions good?
It's not talked about with a major part of the population. Most people don't have the information to know what's happening and what's going on and what they should or shouldn't do. So one of the things that we do here with XR Brazil is try to share the bigger amount of information that we can so people know what is happening. In Brazil, a lot of people don't even know what COP is. So that's another huge thing. But our current government is trying to hide most of the laws that are being imposed to remove the laws that protect the Amazon. And they're doing that, and they're also like removing rights to indigenous lands and killing a lot of people, and the media is not sharing a lot of information about it. So that's a huge issue in Brazil that we try to stop by sharing information so that people know what is happening, know what's going on.
Kathy, have you got a comment or question?
Oh no, that's just in XR. When we agree with something, we just wave our hands. I forget not everybody knows that. I feel I didn't introduce Pascal well, and I just want to say that he's an activist living in Goma, and they're fighting really to protect Virunga Forest, the oldest national park in Africa.
Well, I might just ask another question if that's okay, Anita, and then maybe we'll move on to the next set of videos, but we'll come back to you and everyone at the end with a sort of roundup discussion. So if people have questions in the meantime, they can think about them and return later. But you talked a bit about the Amazon rainforest now being a carbon source rather than something that absorbs CO2 in that. Is this something that in Brazil you can experience the effects of? Do you notice this in any ways directly?
We are having a huge issue with droughts all over in Brazil. So it's not raining, and there is probably going to be, how do I say it? Like they're going to shut down electricity, because we don't have water to make more energy. So that's a current issue here in Brazil. So the droughts are affecting most of the south of Brazil, which is a bit far from the Amazon, but is a consequence of what's happening in the Amazon. And I remember that I think 2 years ago, the skies in all of the cities went black because of the smoke coming from the Amazon. So here in São Paulo, you could see the smoke coming from the Amazon, which is very far away. So Brazil is like, I don't know, 20 times the size of the UK. So it's a huge distance. So those are a few of the current consequences of the fires that we are experiencing, other than a lot of activists are being killed because they're trying to defend the Amazon. And a lot of indigenous people don't have houses because their lands were stolen to plant more soy for cattle feed. So yeah.
But it's a very different experience, the impacts of climate change itself, but all these drivers of climate change, these different industry things. It's maybe something it's hard to picture the effects of in different countries. So I think it's really important that we hear this message from you and the other messages we're going to hear today. So thanks very much, Anita, and we'll move on to the next set of videos now, unless there's a last-minute question. But okay, right. So the next two videos we're going to watch are Nadia and then Derek. Derek is here to answer some questions. However, I think he's having some internet problems at the moment. So we might be able to ask him some questions through messages rather than through audio.
Hello, selamat sejahtera semua. Hello, good afternoon, morning, evening to everyone. My name is Nadia. I'm from Malaysia. I'm really glad that I'm being given this opportunity to speak to everyone in the UK. And I'm really hoping that this year's COP will be something very fruitful. As we know, last year, we couldn't see any negotiations being passed, but this year is really important because it's a conference during the pandemic, and we wanted to see how important negotiations or articles being passed this time around. And just to let you know that being here in Malaysia, we are some of the regions that is heavily affected by the climate crisis. Just 2 days ago, we were hit by flash floods in one of the regions in northern Malaysia, where we see a few deaths and a lot of people that are missing. And it's quite common everywhere around the world that we see smaller countries that releases very small emissions. They are affected the most, and we are hoping more of the shared responsibility being taken by countries in the global north, and all the finances are being supported for the countries in the global south. This comes in terms of climate finance and loss and damages and the reparations. That being said, I'm really looking forward to participate in COP26 this year. We are bringing in our indigenous voices from Malaysia this time around. It's the first participation from Malaysia, from civil society of the indigenous communities. So we hope to be there in the UK, in Glasgow, by the end of the year. Thank you.
So just before we start Derek's video, Kathy, I wonder if you could just introduce Derek. I think Derek will then be able to answer some questions by text after we play the video.
Yeah, Derek lives in northern Uganda, and he is close to a forest called Bugoma Forest, which is being encroached by companies locally, despite the fact that chimpanzees live in that forest and many people rely on the forest. So it's a very brave fight that he is part of, given that Uganda is not a free country. So I hope you can speak a little afterwards, Derek. Anyhow, play the video.
My name is Chironji Derek, a local environmental activist from Extinction Rebellion Hoima in Western Uganda, where oil and gas exploration is set to take place in the near future. The problem I'm going to talk about is the restoration and protection of wildlife corridors of Bugoma and Budongo conservation areas in Western Uganda. The influx of people from different parts of the world in search for fertile soil for agriculture and land for infrastructure development for oil and gas industry in the region has posed danger to the forest resource and habitats for wildlife, hence resulting into human-wildlife conflicts due to the destruction of wildlife habitats and food for wildlife. We ask you, the Global North, to honor your debts and actively support the restoration programs of wildlife corridors in the Global South, so that there is a peaceful coexistence of people and wildlife. Besides that, protection and conservation of natural resources should also be taken as a global concern. Thanks for watching. Now go and do something. Act now.
Great. So we have a question from Susanna, which I'll read out, and we'll allow some time for Derek to respond. So Susanna asks, Derek, what kind of support can we provide in the Global North or collaboration? I think that's for collaboration. We might move on to the next videos, and then it might take a little while for Derek to respond. So we might hear his responses later.
I'll also look for the link for Bogoma Forest campaign, and yeah, well, the next ones are playing. Can you hear us at all, Derek? No.
Okay, I think we'll move on for now, but hopefully we'll be able to come back to Derek in a bit after some more videos. So the next two videos we're going to watch are from Nadia. Oh, no, sorry, from Ina and David. So we're going to hear from Ina first.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ina Maria Shikongo, frontline defender from Namibia. And as we are slowly approaching COP26, I'd love to ask countries of the G7, the G20, to please control your companies when your companies are coming from the global north, like Recon Africa, coming here to destroy the Congo Basin for the biggest share play of the decade. They have apparently government support, but not the people support. These companies are undermining our efforts, our global efforts to stick to 1.5 degrees. The climate crisis is here. We can see it. We can see that it's burning on your side. We can see that you people are being flooded. Now you are also on the front line of the climate crisis, not only us anymore. The only difference is that with us, it comes with the climate injustice. People are losing their lands. Waters are being poisoned. Biodiversity is going extinct. So others can pocket. And then you sit there at COP26 saying, yes, we're going to cut the carbon emissions, while your countries are coming to our countries to add on to that carbon budget. Because they can do whatever they want here, apparently. COP26, this is a matter of survival. For my people, for my culture, for my heritage that has been ripped from my mother's womb centuries ago. We are watching you, and control your companies. COP26, again, a reminder, we are watching you.
We're going to hear from David next. I wonder, David, would you like to quickly introduce yourself before we watch your clip?
Yes, thank you very much, James. I think it's the first time I'm seeing you, but I'm glad to meet you here and everyone. David Jessero, I'm with XR Rwanda, and I'm also in regenerative culture, Region 101. In Rwanda, we are working on different projects under Regen. We are working with a group of farmers, and that is concerning regenerative agriculture, how to take value from all the trainings that we are getting about regenerative culture and invest that value or that learning into the farms and the farmer cooperatives. Other projects that we are working on are with the kids. We have a Pro Planet club at school, and we're teaching kids each at their different levels according to what they can understand in terms of climate change. So slowly we are, teaching everyone, teaching different kids at different levels about climate problems. and what they can do at home. We cross borders, we talk about other issues like what's happening in other countries, but in general, that's so far what we're doing. Probably Fidel can also add a few things to what we're doing. Thank you.
Thanks, David. That sounds really amazing work. I'm sure there'll be some questions for you when we get to the panel discussion shortly. But I'll just play your video first.
Muraho, my name is David Gisero. I'm live streaming from Rwanda. I'm a teacher. I'm based here in the southern province in the district of Muhanga. I have a crisis talk, a very, very short talk on pollution and climate change and how these things are affecting our lives here in the global south. First of all, we are truly living in a time of ecological crisis and climate breakdown because the global north is over-depending on fossil fuels like coal, gas, and petroleum. And this is destroying and polluting the entire ecosystem around the world. And it is resulting into sea level rises, landslides and floods, severe droughts are very common these days in Madagascar. They've spent more than 1 year without seeing rain, but also in Somalia, we've seen the same situation. In Malawi and Mozambique, the same situation. The entire global south is in a mess. And we are calling on the global north to leave those minerals which are causing problems to the planet where they are. According to the recommendations of the International Energy Agency and the Paris Agreement. Here in Rwanda, we have seen over 250 infrastructure, water, electricity, and so on, completely, destroyed and dysfunctional during just a few months of floods and landslides. So we call upon the global north to go ahead and implement the Paris Agreement honestly, urgently, and more responsibly. Thank you very much. But also for the global south, those who are cutting trees they did not plant, trees planted by monkeys and birds, it is the time to stop. So everyone coming to the COP26 summit, please go back and do something in your country. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much for that video, David. It's very powerful, and you're experiencing some tragic effects in Rwanda and observing them in other countries as well, and they're perhaps things that just are not covered with nearly enough attention in a lot of the media in the UK or many other countries. It's really shocking that there's this disparity between what's happening in the global south and how we react about climate change and injustice and inequality in the global north. So I think it's a good chance now to take some questions. So if anyone has questions or comments for David, please raise a hand and you can talk, or you can put them in the chat if you prefer. I can see in the chat actually Derek has just had a chance to respond to Susanna's question before. So if it's okay, I'll quickly read that out whilst everyone else is thinking of some comments for David. So Derek has written, "Thank you, Susanna. I'm calling upon the Global North to honour your debts and support environmental conservation programmes to save and protect the natural forest resources in the Albertine region. The discovery of oil and gas should not be a curse to the environment and wildlife, for it's the source of their livelihood." Thanks, Derek, for that. So I'm not seeing any hands or questions for David right now, so I might ask one myself if no one else has any.
I was just wondering if David would like to add a little information there, since he has internet, about the oil and gas in the Hoima region there that Derek is talking about. Oh, you're on mute, David.
Yes. Thank you very much, Kathy. With the pipeline, and I think we've done a little bit of work on that as well before. So our work is probably being complemented by what Derek is doing and what other activists also doing. But when you think about the East African crude oil pipeline, which runs from Hoima up to the port of Tonga, you know, in Tanzania, but slightly bit ahead into the Indian Ocean, if I'm not mistaken. It's a 1,450 kilometer, you know, long, kilometers long pipeline. So that's a very, very big project. And if you look at just, you know, the risk zones, how many ecosystems surround that length of that pipeline, you can begin to understand that if there was any accident, any spillage, how much would actually be damaged. You're talking about, I think we have a lot of lakes. There's a lake running around, probably Albert, if I'm not mistaken. Then there are other, you know, vegetations. So if anything happens, it's really a big mess out there. And the concern is, would what happened in Nigeria with Shell likely to happen with that project in Uganda? So that's a big concern. And what we learned from what happened in Nigeria, UN said it would take over 30 years to clean up and put everything back to, you know, the pre-disaster situation. So you can imagine what would happen if there was an accident, any oil spillage, any serious oil spillage in relation to that pipeline. But as far as I know, Uganda is going ahead with that deal, you know, with Shell and China. There is a state-owned oil company owned by China. I'm sure they are going ahead with that project, but we still raise our voices. Probably something will happen, but very unlikely. So it shows you the hypocrisy, again, of the global north. Agreements are being signed, and then France is going around, well, not really France, but Shell. They're still going around the Paris Agreement and not respecting it. It's just, you know, a portrait of hypocrisy of the highest order. Thank you.
Thanks, David. That's really important communication. I wondered if I could ask you a question about the climate education that you're running. How did that come about? And do you have other people involved in the teaching? Could you tell us a bit more about that scheme? Sorry, you're on mute again.
I beg your pardon?
I wondered if you could tell us about this teaching that you've been doing, teaching about climate change to young people.
Okay. We have a club called Pro Planet. It's fairly recent. I'm running out of battery, but let me try to be quick. It's fairly recent. First of all, because of the ages that we're starting with. For example, we started with about 6 years old, 6 to 8 years old. Those are very young kids who might not be able to understand very complicated stuff about climate change. So we started with what they can understand. They can understand the importance of a tree. So we teach them how to plant a tree and what it needs to raise up a tree. They can understand how to organize waste at home. The planet doesn't need to be filled up with, you know, waste mixed up all together. It's not good for any place. So we're teaching them, and we have taught them about how to organize waste at home. Actually, if I knew, I would bring here a t-shirt. In that club, the whole program of what we're doing with the kids is printed on the t-shirt. It says, it starts with save a dying planet, organize waste according to its category, plant a tree, you know, and I think there are 4 things. So it's all the program is printed there. And this morning I checked on a family that was on the program to see what they have done. And the kid told me they had planted a tree. So we go very slowly. That's just one aspect. But the other is actually to bring environment education and sink it into the curriculum. We are a Cambridge school here, but what you see is that even with a Cambridge school, the science program is not really rich in terms of environment education. So we want to find a way of bringing rich environment education and enrich our science program here in the school. That might include things like regenerative culture, a bit broad, but we shall adapt it to what and how much kids at different levels and ages can understand. I wonder whether I've answered your question.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And that sounds like amazing work, David. There's another question in the chat from Susanna. Susanna, would you like to read out that question, or if you prefer, I can read it for you?
Yes, for sure. Thank you very much, David. I'm just amazed about your courage and your work. I'm just wondering, you know, the government on all levels and also your government, they all play such hypocritical positions. So are there parts of the government or departments that do support your work, or are you really alone out there and only sort of get support by the civil societies and individuals? So what is the lay of the land?
Okay. In relation to what we're doing with the school, we don't ask, you know, the government does not oppose as such, because it is seen to be part of the curriculum. So the kind of assistance we need, we are probably almost getting it, though with the green curriculum, making it really richer in terms of environment education. I've already talked to some people in regenerative culture within XR, so we shall see what is possible. But the government here does support anything to do with environment education, not particularly in schools, because it's really a new thing to make it really richer and more impactful, so that kids can really feel the essence of environment education and probably be able to take something from there and do it in their community. But probably the government will have to learn from the teachers, from, you know, small groups of teachers like us who are making environment education into the, you know, into the curriculum. I wonder whether I've answered very well.
Yes, thank you very much, David. Yeah.
We have a comment from Francisca. Francisca, I wonder if you'd like to read that out, or if I can read it out.
I can read it out. I just didn't want to get into the flow of what people were talking about. Let me fix my camera. Let's see. There we go, maybe, yes. A colleague of mine, and actually on the board of this organization, because I work with them, it's called Marine Frontiers, or Marine Conservation Without Borders. And not just about marine stuff, but that's where they started with the mangrove book. But they work with indigenous communities to create biocultural curriculums, because talking about mangroves isn't just talking about biology, but also about culture. And it's always based the content is based on local ecological knowledge, but also modern science, and weaving them together so that these indigenous communities can better communicate with scientists and managers coming into their communities wanting to help, and often having miscommunications, and then the projects fail. And working in Belize, he found that before he started this, that the kids he was living with always had problems with their homework when it was in English because they were speaking Creole at home. But if the teacher gave them homework in Creole, they could do it. So that's why he's making these educational materials that are in the indigenous language of the people. And he's been working especially in the Western Caribbean, so from Campeche, Mexico, down to Costa Rica. He has a book on mangroves for every indigenous community. So I think that's like 12 or 16. So this may be a really cool organization that David could work with to get materials going.
Wonderful to hear that. Could you share with me, if you don't mind, your email in the chat so I can make a follow-up on this? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Francisca, and thanks, David. I wonder, Fidele, would you like to make any comments as well? I think Kathy mentioned that you might want to talk a bit about the oil project that was mentioned.
Thank you very much. I'm Fide from XR Rwanda. I'm not going to comment about this oil and drilling project in Uganda, but my crisis talk was gaps in responding to the climate-related disasters, where I mentioned the effects of climate change here in Rwanda, but most of them, David spoke about it. Maybe I can add some, but almost all of them, they were spoken by David. It's a colleague, and they work together. So thank you. About the project that David did not say. It's about a project which goes also into the school, where we are getting the talents, the climate-related talents from children through poems, drama, drawings, different things, where children make a competition. Then in the end, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Fidele. I think we don't have a link, unfortunately, to watch your crisis talk today, but that will be published and made online with the many other talks in the coming weeks. So we have a few things that we could do now. We could potentially watch 1 or 2 more videos if there is interest, or we could hear from Kathy for a bit, or we could just have a few more questions and discussions before rounding up. I'm not really sure how everyone feels, so perhaps we could just watch 1 more video and then we'll hear from Kathy. So I'll share a video from Richie, who is in Argentina with Extinction Rebellion Argentina, and they have been working with an Extinction Rebellion group in China on these agricultural policies in Argentina, where China is building these mega farms.
And my name is Richie. I live in Buenos Aires, Argentina. We would like to talk about the fact that overconsumption in countries of the global north pushes governments of countries of the global south to take desperate measures and sign agreements of horror, like the one currently taking place between China and Argentina. This agreement seeks to supply China with 900 tons of pork meat per year. Our lands will now be occupied not only by the grains that are exported to feed animals, but also by the sheds that enclose these animals, which then end up being exported, while local food production, regional economies, and healthy food production continue to be marginalized. In addition, these farms would also promote greater demand for soybean, exacerbating an agro-industrial model, which we have already proven that it doesn't solve hunger or make the economy better, and have only brought more poverty and is increasingly distancing us from having a more environmentally friendly agriculture. On this agreement, inequality rules. These mega farms are being installed in the poorest provinces of Argentina, like Chaco, because living with an animal factory is to live with a polluting, cruel, smelly hell on earth, destructive of air, soil, water, and with a series of microbiological threats that detonate in different diseases of minor and major danger. We ask you, the global north, to take seriously the issue of degrowth. Reducing consumption must be integrated into our solutions toolkit if we are to quickly tackle the climate crisis before it's too late. Now, it is important to understand that the burden of this task should not be laid upon the individual. It's the job of the governments and the very corporations who created this mess in the first place to facilitate this drop in consumption. And what can you do about this? Well, first, continue with your amazing work, because that inspires us all. And then keep on demanding your governments and banks to stop financing companies from your countries to come to our countries to devastate everything. Stop greenwashing. Demand transparency of the entire production chain, and thus stop the destruction in our territories. Have you heard the phrase, less is more? Thank you for watching.
So I think it was interesting to hear about agriculture and these international links where it's not just targeting one country, but these policies that are going to be decided at COP26, that they involve interlinking policies affecting many different regions and countries. So climate action is never just about individuals in one place, but it's a much bigger problem. It really requires thinking about how countries work together. Would anyone like to make any comments right now about any of the videos we've seen so far, or if you have comments for any of the speakers from earlier, if you'd like to ask them any questions, feel free. Otherwise, there's a video that Kathy thought would be good to share today. It's a video clip from an Extinction Rebellion live stream. Would you like to just introduce this briefly, Kathy?
Yeah, sure. So Extinction Rebellion right now are in the middle of what they call a rebellion. So they have had actions every day for 2 weeks. And I think the action that happened this morning is very characteristic of Extinction Rebellion. You have many groups now. You've got Extinction Rebellion XR scientists, XR Christians, XR interfaith, XR engineers. You've really got a lot of different groups. And today, XR doctors took action against Morgan Chase, the biggest funder of fossil fuels in the world. Yeah, so moving on from what Richie was talking about, what we see is a lot of greenwashing from Global North companies, and in this case, Global North funding. And so, yeah, there's a lot of actions being taken to try and raise awareness of the fact that the City of London, for example, is actually funding climate change. If their emissions were taken into account, the emissions that they're causing through their investments, they'd be the 9th biggest emitter on the planet, just the City of London alone. So yeah, do you want to show a little clip there from the doctors, the lovely doctors?
I'm just going to show a short clip at the start, just introducing why they're at this protest today, and then I'm going to just skip to the end and show an Extinction Rebellion clip at the end of this live stream, just to keep things short. It's an hour-and-a-half stream, so we probably don't quite have time to sit through it all.
So we're here outside JP Morgan. And there's people dressed as doctors here. Let me just ask what's going on. Hi, could you tell us what's going on here today?
Hi, so we are doctors for XR, and we're here because JP Morgan is the #1 investor bank for fossil fuels. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's 33% more than the next bank, and it's over £250 billion that they invest in fossil fuels. It's absolutely ridiculous. They've got greenwashing on their site saying that they are in accordance with the Paris agreements, but they're not. And so we are protesting that because we need to do something about this. This climate emergency is a health emergency, and we as healthcare professionals feel that it is our duty to do something about this. So that's why we're here. It's really hard to...
I heard you talking about why the health professionals weren't doing more.
Yeah.
In May 2019, the UK declared a climate emergency. Since then, more and more people around the world have woken up to the climate and ecological crisis, putting ever-growing pressure on the people in power. And they've started to act. Not acting as in taking climate action, but acting as in role-playing politics, acting as saviors, playing with words, trying to convince us that everything is taken care of.
Pretending to change while they continue pretty much exactly as before. Pretending to wage war against fossil fuel while opening brand new coal mines, oil fields and pipelines. Pretending to have the most ambitious climate policies, bragging about these so-called ambitious climate targets, which are vastly insufficient, by the way, and then get caught for not even trying to reach these targets.
Pretending to care about science while holding climate summits without inviting a single climate scientist. Pretending to care about nature and biodiversity while the world cuts down a forest area the size of a football field every second. Pretending to build back better even as astronomical sums of money are already locked in to dirty projects.
Billions more is being spent on fossil fuels than on clean energy. Those in power compensate with beautiful words and promises that someone in the future will somehow undo their actions and make them net zero. With more and more extreme weather raging all around us, the gap between actions and words is becoming impossible to ignore.
2021 is forecasted to be the second highest rise in emissions to date. The people of this planet are no longer going to fall for the lies of those in power. The climate crisis is something that is not in the distant future. It is here, now, and every delay will make it worse.
We have tried asking nicely. We have tried writing to our MPs, signing petitions, and everything else. None of it has worked. So together, we must take to the streets. Come and join us as we demand they stop the harm and halt all new investment in the fossil fuel industry. We can win this. We must win this.
Thank you very much for all of our speakers who attended today. It was fantastic to have your input and your videos. And I really hope that they're going to get watched and shared very widely as they're released in the coming weeks. That they're a fantastic resource. And thank you everyone who attended today for your comments and for your attendance. It's really appreciated. This was recorded today, and we're going to share that recording as soon as possible so that more people can watch it. And I think we'll finish there. Kathy, would you like to add anything else?
No, just thank you for the opportunity, and we're just beginning to start sharing these videos. If anybody knows of other people that would like to make a little video coming from the Global South, we'd be very interested in hearing their stories. And yeah, nice to have this opportunity. Thank you.